Good evening, welcome. It is All For United. We are back for the third day running, which I can quite safely say is tiring. I'm not going to lie. 312. We're going to have a night off tomorrow, I think, and see how we feel. We probably could have done with a night off tonight with the way that all ended up going. But nonetheless, like the true troopers we are, we said we were going to be here, and here we are. I say we said we were going to be here. There was one more who, to be fair to him, was not feeling well on Friday evening, and he still jumped on. I did tell him he wasn't allowed to be sick until Sunday, but he, as with most people, just ignored me entirely and is ill. So unfortunately, Danny Boy is not going to be with us today. He's had to drop out. Man flu has officially claimed yet another victim. So he is currently curled up in bed, and we wish him well. The rest of us feeling pretty sick as well. I think it was mostly to do with the football, if I'm honest. It's still a lovely little panel, and it's 2 season ticket holders, which is always a joy. Just below us there, standing on the shoulder of a giant, we are. It's John Neville. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, Barry. Yeah, a bit disappointed with the game again today, but it's becoming a bit of a familiar familiar way things have been going at Old Trafford this season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's, yeah. And of course, he took my advice. He did the speed limit, and he stayed away from people's cars. Well played, Andrew. He made it here. How the devil are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'll say half of me's annoyed today, and half of me's like, the league season's over, so I'm just like, a bit like I don't care anymore. So I'm just like, it was a tough watch today. I was like, compared to Wednesday, it was just like, yeah, it's just typical United this season. That's all I can say.
Yes, it is a weird feeling, actually, Andy. I totally agree with you on that one. It's very weird, and we will definitely get into it. NT, hello once again to you as well. That went roughly as we all expected. I mean, to be fair, not quite. I thought it was going to be a tight win, and at 1-0, I'm thinking this is kind of where I saw the game get into, I suppose, really. Just like a little 1-goal win. And then, of course, it all just absolutely blew up in our faces. But there we go. JJ, lovely to have you back in the chat as well. And as he says, Hayes' farewell tour is relying on one trophy now. On a Batio, of course, former Manchester United women player, is now in the Women's Champions League final. It's a very interesting game. I do feel a bit for them. But yes, I said it before, I'll say it again, whether your name's Jurgen Klopp, whether your name is Emma Hayes, whether your name is Alex Ferguson, just don't tell people you leave him halfway through a season. It takes the wheels off the bus. I am still convinced that Kathy Ferguson told Alex that he needed to go back purely because she knew he just couldn't end on that absolutely diabolical season. And of course, he ended up staying a lot longer. And when he did go, a lot more of a surprise. I think dropping it around about Christmas time was not the cleverest idea that these people have had. Here's Connor. Didn't watch the game at all, so you guys, my eyes and ears on what happened. Well, it's not much to see here, boss. I'm honest with you, but we'll see how we go. And when you think about it, we've gone so fairly even contest versus 3 championship level sides over the last 6 days. I mean, taking them to the limit. That's what it's all about. That's why we don't want to scrap replays in the FA Cup. Or is it? And I genuinely thought I was going to need a little lie down, says NT, during the game. I checked out every month ago and watching this now just puts me in a bit of a daze. And boys, I think that's kind of just where it is, really, isn't it? You know, we did our best last night to, I say, hype up the game. That wasn't really what we were trying to do, but to preview it, to give it the respect it deserves. It's still a Premier League game, and for Burnley, it was a big game. You know, they're fighting for their lives towards the bottom of the league. So for them, it's a big game, and it is an important one. For us, like it's just, can we finish 6th, which doesn't really have, you don't get a medal for that, as Roy Keane would say. You know, it's not a trophy. So it felt more like pride and just trying to get some form of momentum before the FA Cup final. And John, I don't know if the momentum we're getting is the sort of momentum that we need. It's not ideal. What did you make of it? I mean, in terms of Andrew talking about how it's a dodgy sort of feeling, it just is, isn't it? It's one of those where, yeah, I'm annoyed we didn't win, but ultimately I've just sort of hit so what territory in this game.
Yeah, it's one of them. We know we're going to finish no higher than 6th. Could even be 7th, 8th. So it was one of them. You sort of during the game you get sort of revved up and involved, and you sort of cheering the team on to get the result. But when it comes down to the ending, we've drawn again, dropped more points. You just sort of think, oh well, it's not a catastrophe really now, because it's the league season was sort of over for us a few weeks ago with the results we've had. So yeah, it was it's just sort of on to the next one, and just sort of chucking the games off, counting the games off till the cup final really.
Yeah. I'm not sure where Box. Whoops, that's not Box. That's Box. Not really sure where Box is going with this one. Barry in attack would have put one of those chances away. I'm going to take it positively, as if you think I would have made quite a good play of it. But yeah, there's a lot of chances. Andy, as NT says, truth be told, Liverpool drawing was a better result and feeling than when we were 1-0 up. Did that come across in the ground? Because I've got to be honest, I gave it the fist pump. I was very pleased listening to Anthony score and watching the highlights and seeing how he nipped it and got it. It was a good goal, and I'll tell you what, I'm not even going to bother trying to do it all in order today. I think we're just going to sort of go with it. His goal genuinely has impressed me, because a lot of players would have gone down there, but you can see the effort. He's straining every sinew to try and stay on his feet, and then to still manage to guide the ball past the goalkeeper. I thought it was a really good goal. That wasn't really the question. The question was, did it feel like a draw for Liverpool was better than us being 1-0 up?
I don't know why I heard about the Liverpool game, because I thought West Ham were 1-0 up, and then Liverpool came back, and I thought, oh, Liverpool are going to go on to win this, and then I heard it was 2-2, so I was like, well, that has all but ended their title. So I was like, sort of happy, before the game started. I thought the Scousers are not likely to win the title this season, but in terms of our game, I mean, yeah, pleased for it. Well, yeah, got his goal. So, but United we were awful. We were awful for practically the entire game, with the attacking players just blundering countless chances we were getting. So, but it was saying that 80th minute was probably the unlikeliest hero was get us ahead, and Anthony was, it's the first time he scored a league goal for over a year. So, they say when I think it was the kick from the Burnley goalkeeper, and Anthony got onto it, and you could almost, the goal Anthony scored was almost reminiscent of Ahmad's goal against Liverpool in the cup. So, fair play to Anthony. He's proven Ten Hag's decision to start him was correct, and it was his goal that got us into the lead. So when I saw that lineup today, I was like, I thought, would Ahmed get in? But when I saw it, I was like, no surprise, it was unchanged. So, but Anthony, I thought he might have got subbed off earlier before he actually scored. So I was like, Ten Hag was making the substitution. So I was like, fair play to Anthony. He took his chance, and we got ahead, but didn't prove he was going to go on to win it. But yeah, United were just, practically awful during the whole game.
Twilumber, me and you need to have a chat, mate. You've upset me from the start. Let's see what he's put in. He's put first EPL goal, and here we are hyping it up. Geez, the standards have gone down bad. He's a regular starter. I don't think anybody is sitting here claiming from one performance against Burnley that we're all going to start sitting there and go, my God, isn't Anthony? He's amazing. He's well worth the money that we've paid. Nobody sat here and said that. But to come out and give it any Jim and Jack could have done that, I don't think that's true. I mean, Nev, what do you reckon? Because genuinely, the effort he put to stay on his feet and then to kick that ball into the back of the net whilst it's being put here under pressure, looking like he needed to, and he does fall over in the end. He's very Leo Dalton, the way that he scores. Scores goal, ends up on the floor. I think that's harsh from Twillenby. He's not had a great season. Nobody's trying to claim that he has, but that was a good goal, and I don't think you give praise where it's due and you give criticism where it's due, and on that one, it's got to be praised, surely.
Yeah, I thought he took it very well. I mean, like Andy mentioned, it was a poor pass from the back from Burnley, but he was sort of straight onto it. He sort of takes it looks like he takes a heavy touch, but it's sort of quite clever in the way, because it sort of takes it away from the defenders, and it sort of almost sort of puts the goalkeeper off a little bit, and then once he runs onto it again, he hits it first time and sort of caught the keeper out a little bit with that. So I thought he did, to be fair to him, take it very well. But like you say, Barry, we've not seen enough of that from him, or nothing much of that from him, much at all this season. So it's a shame he hasn't done it for us sooner.
Yeah, no, I mean that's absolutely true, absolutely fair. Yeah, that's a little bit harsh, but JJ saying that, as we've just seen there, too many players invite the pressure, go down cheaply, appeal for penalties. We had it twice in this game where they could have attempted to at least shoot. Now, the thing was, we did shoot, Andrew. My God, did we shoot? That guy Nacho sticks one over the bar. Bruno's hit the post. I mean, a ridiculous amount of chances. I think it was something like 5 or 6 clear-cut chances. We scored the one that probably wasn't clear-cut, to be brutally honest. But it's one of those, isn't it? Because looking at the games that we've had, they've not been great, and we haven't had that many chances. We haven't done much with them. But the last few games, Coventry, Sheffield United and Burnley, yes, they're all championship sides, but we've done what is expected. We've outdone most of them. I mean, Burnley were pretty good in terms of possession and shots as well, and passes. They were quite even in the end. But we have done better. We've had a lot of shots. They're just not going in. What is happening? Because, hi, John, you must be in a situation, surely, at Old Trafford and the away games. You're watching these matches and the chances are there. I mean, you must be coming away from these games frustrated, having seen good chances, because they are good chances that are going begging, aren't they?
They really are. I mean, once again we opened the match with plenty of chances, but one that was also somebody that I was reading just earlier, one incredibly boring due to the lack of quality, and that's the lack of quality at the end of those, crosses and passes into the box. I mean, Garnacho saw several chances passing by, but Bruno scoring one over the bar in the opening phases of the match. Eriksen, Anthony, Bruno all had their own chances but failed to find the target. And it's just, like with Bruno's creativity, it's just like, with Fernandes playing more centrally, United are benefiting from that, but it's just those on the end of it are not, taking their chances. So it's just a bit frustrating at the moment. We're doing everything probably right. It's just like the ball's not going in the back of the net. So it's just like, and say even that second half, it just got more and more tougher to watch. It wasn't. The chances were drying up, and it was only into that, Anthony breakthrough, where we thought, we've just got ahead here, but we just couldn't hold on to the win for that long, because it's just been, as I said earlier, typical United. It's just like the defending has cost us again, and we can point to all the injuries we've had, but we've got to defend these games more better. So whoever's in the defence, I mean, technically the three of the 4 in that defence today are defenders. Casemiro is a midfielder that's just been moved back. So it's like, well, Casemiro has played in that position, well, commentary game, but also I remember early on in the season, was it early on in the season or last season in defence as well? So I'm like, it's not like he hasn't been there before, but it's almost like us getting ahead. It was almost like we were going to sneak something out of this game. Like we'll come away the 3 points, but obviously a clumsy moment from Onana, and we conceded the penalty, but there just seems something fundamentally wrong with this squad at the moment. It's just like can't put the chances away, but then when we have got ahead, we can't hold on to that lead, and it's just concerning at the moment. And just like everything's been, as I say, put under a microscope at the minute with Ten Hag, the players, Sir Jim and Ineos, they're in now. It's just like everything's just heightened to the nth degree, and I'm just like, yeah, it's just frustrating, as I said, annoyed, but on the other hand, I'm just like, well, I just can't wait for the league season to be over, and just look forward to that FA Cup final. And hopefully some silverware at the end of it.
I mean, John, it's an interesting one, isn't it? The goals, I mean, Connor says, need Martial back to finish by the sounds of it, which in an ordinary turn of events might be one where people would laugh.
He could be back before the end of the season. And somebody put on Twitter, I was like, well, if he comes on for the FA Cup final and scores a goal and then the winning goal buggers off, I'm like, well,
imagine the away to go.
And
to be fair, probably one he deserves. But Connor's saying we're not scoring. And my biggest worry, running through the sites and looking for some of the statistics and things that we're going to post, was that we don't tend to score a lot of goals against Burnley. That seemed to be the thing, certainly over the last 20 years or so. It's not something we do a lot of. They're a very, very good side defensively and have been over the years. When you saw the team, you've got Rasmus, Anthony, Alejandro and Bruno as sort of the front four, really. Were you worried as to where the goals were going to come from today?
Well, a little bit, yeah. I mean, it was the same team that scored 4 on Wednesday, I suppose. So I suppose you could look at that from a positive point of view. The only thing I thought he might have changed, I thought he might have started McTominay instead of Eriksen in the midfield, or something I thought I might have perhaps done. But, we still should, be able to score at home, a few more than one really against that Burnley team. I mean, like they did defend very well and play very well, to be fair. I wouldn't say I was unduly worried by the team lineup. It was more probably the substitutions in game that seemed to vex everyone, I think.
Well, do you know what's interesting? You said that, and John, so I'm going to ask you to crack on with that, actually, because a lot of people have mentioned this. And I don't know, I'm tired, John. I'm tired. I'm really tired of being here and doing this job, if I'm honest with you, at times, because my job as a host is a very, very simple one. It's to give you the voice and the opportunity to put your opinions out there about United. And genuinely, I'm not fussed. It's the reason why we let Tillumba stay along and throw what he's got to say, and Buck says his stuff, and JJ says his, Beanie comes on. That's literally what this show is all about. It's what it's been built on over all the years. But it's really difficult to listen to half of the fan base go, like Dan, give the youth a chance, throw people in, make substitutions, change the team around. And then you get the other half, when he does do it, go, but they're not the right substitutions. It's like the opinions of the world have just carried so much weight now that unless they've done exactly what it is, and I'm guilty of this too. You ever go and watch me on the women's channel, I've been challenging a lot of what Mark Skinner has done over the course of the season. So we all do it. But I've forgotten where I'm going with the question now. It was that much of a thing. Substitutions. What would you have done differently? Because the subs bench wasn't great. We had Binde. Amas hasn't played a game for us yet. Jackson, I don't think, has come on yet. Ahmad, who was probably the only one who people were suggesting could have started, out of the substitutes. Amrabat, who nobody was expecting. Forson, who's only had a few appearances. Scott McTominay, who nobody seems to want to start anyway. When he does it, it's a nightmare. And then you bring him on as a substitute, which is what everybody says to do, and then he's a nightmare. And of course, Wheatley as well.
Oh dear. At the end of Barry.
It's not the end of me. I'm still here, hanging on. But we don't have some weird things happen with StreamYard. How far did I get before I blacked out?
About McTominay starting, I think.
McTominay and Wheatley was the last one that I was suggesting there was, and of course Mason Mount was back, potentially the other one. So what would you have done differently? Everybody's going on about these subs. What would you have done differently if you were Eric Ten Hag?
I just found it a bit baffling that we're 0-0 against a team second bottom in the league with whatever 25 minutes to go, and you take off your only striker and your best midfielder. Really, I think that was what sort of baffled me more than anything. I know, like you say, we've not got a lot of options off the bench, and I suppose, like Ten Hag mentioned, that they've, played 3 games in a week, and one of those was 120 minutes in the cup semi-final. But we haven't got another game now till Bank Holiday Monday, so I would have thought just leave them on and try and get the goal. Obviously, to be fair to him, we did go in front after he'd made those subs, which you could perhaps argue it worked to a point, but it certainly didn't go down well in the stadium. That was for sure.
No, it didn't seem to, Andrew, did it? What do you think that was? Because there's been, reports coming out that Ten Hag was booed a little bit during the game. We'll get to that. But the substitutions wise, what was you hearing? What were the people around you clamouring for when those substitutions happened? Were they all right with it? Or was there a different attack plan that the Old Trafford faithful seemed to be clamouring for?
I think we wanted something a bit different. I mean, yes, Ten Hag, the booing, and there was some at full time when he was walking off as well, so it was a smattering of boos as well. But at the time, say 0-0, we were struggling, and was like, a change is going to happen here. So we were sort of happy when McTominay and Diallo were waiting, on the sidelines to come on. It was only when the board came up that was like, oh, it's Mainu and Højlund to be coming off, and we all thought it probably should have been Anthony and Eriksen that was coming off. So obviously it all led to the boos for that, and kind of left us playing a bit of long ball football with 3 small non-physical wingers, changing around each other. But this is where I thought Ten Hag his game management wasn't the greatest. Afterwards, yes, Anthony scored, so keeping him on was, he would say, well, I justified my decision in that, but it kind of making those subs when he did, it left us with no striker, on the pitch, and no plan. And I'm just like, even at the end when McTominay went off injured and like Mason Mount came out, I was like, why is Ethan Wheatley not where beside Mason Mount? Just throw Ethan Wheatley on. He's a striker. If you don't score, you don't score. We ended up drawing, or if he scores the winning goal. Just take a chance. And he's done that in. I just remember the Liverpool FA Cup game. He went for it. He just let the handbrake off. Let's just go for it. Just like, it's Burnley. I'm just like, they were fighting themselves. They're trying to avoid the drop as well. I'm just like, let's just the rest of the season just to pray for a bit of pride. It's like, yeah, we're not going to get Champions League, but finish as high as you possibly can. And, let's end the season well, because we want to be going in with some form into that, FA Cup final as well. And it just felt, just Ten Hag is just like, more and more questions are being asked of him. And like, he's in-game management as well. And it's just like, it said this running has been crucial for Ten Hag. If the powers that be upstairs, are they convinced? He's the one to carry on. So after today's performance, a lot of people are not going to be impressed. So it's just weren't the greatest Burnley. I think it's just the style of football that we're liking to see, and those above wanted to see as well. So it's just, I'm unsure. From the first time out, I was thinking, always been Ten Hag in. I'm just like, it'll be interesting at the end of the season. Well, whatever happens, whether we win the FA Cup or not, what happens next?
It really will be. I mean, it was also interesting reading or seeing and hearing that Ten Hag is putting his program notes today about how there is a pattern of play, that he is building on something. He is trying to work on an ethos and a way in which we go about winning games and doing that sort of thing. And it comes down, what I'm getting at with that is what Boxer said here. What are the season ticket holders saying about Ten Hag on the terrace? We've got two here. So we'll ask you two, but are there people around you? Are you feeling, and I'm not suggesting for 1 second there should be, I'm just asking the question. This is what the people are asking. But are you hearing any sort of grumblings or rumblings on the terraces that are starting to signal that maybe the match-going fans are starting to lose patience with Big, Bold and Beautiful?
I think one or two are, quite a few seem to be quite a few disgruntled fans around, from what I can sort of tell at the moment. I don't think, especially with how this season's gone, the amount of, games where, we've played poorly or, conceded late goals and things have gone against us. It's not, the atmosphere is not too great around us. I mean, there's the Red Army fans in the corner there. They're all they're still singing the Ten Hag's Red Army song for the cup final and everything like that. So I think it's a little bit mixed at the moment, but I think I'm hearing certainly one or two rumblings.
What about where you sit, Andrew, which by the way is a wonderful view?
Yeah, well, until next season, where we'll be in that section where that Stretford end of that section, so it'll be a different view next season. But it's like John's a bit mixed. I think when the booze at the end at the full time it was just smattering of booze. I think that's born out of frustration of what we've seen and annoyed. It was just like we could have done a lot better. It was like it's Burnley. It was just like nothing against Burnley. They played really well. So and they have in that first half. They could have probably been 2-0 up. Well, with the chances they had, and they had two clear-cut chances. Nothing, but just felt like I think Ten Hag said it after the game as well. It's just about often the chances we were creating. Said, sorry, every team gives up opportunities, but it's up to us to take our own chances. And say it's a bit weird at the moment. We're creating loads of chances, but. When coming back on the drive back home, Shane said to me, he said, Ten Hag said, we're the most dynamic and entertaining teams in the league at the moment. I was like, I'm not quite seeing that at the moment. So, we're creating a load of chances, but we're not putting them away. So, and then we're losing control at the other end. So, it's a bit of a mixed one on Ten Hag at the moment. It's just like, well, I say, let's match it. We'll back him to the very end, but it's just at some point there's going to become a tipping point. So it's just, it's when does that get reached? And I don't know. It's just frustration at the moment. Just a lot of things. Ten Hag, the players. It's just like it's all. It's just not going our way at the minute.
It's really not. It's the very complete opposite of last season, if we're being brutally honest.
I think I've said before, like shows like this season, if this had been in Ten Hag's first season, we would have been forgiving because it's his first season, because he's trying to work through a lot of things. But because of the way we played last season, winning the League Cup, reaching the FA Cup final, finishing the Champions League spot, it's like expectations of rose up. It's like, oh, we can kick on here, and it's just like, the bubble's slightly been burst. It's like, well, there's still a lot more work to do here. So it's just, it's just, what next?
It's an interesting one. I mean, he's got a 58.3% win rate. It's like people do whinge at him, but that's not an atrocious one at all. If you're in a situation where you are winning roughly 6 out of every 10 games, that's not awful. It's just because it's all happened last season. And this season is what's sort of bringing the numbers down, I suppose. So it's a tricky one. But as JJ says, we've had dire seasons before this, but if ETH doesn't last, neither should a number of these players, and people agree with them as well. And Spock says at least we're still on a +1 goal difference. We can't end up on 0 like Ranieri's season.
So I was having this debate before the game, like saying the best United 11 and the worst United 11, saying like at the end of it, oh, the worst United. Mark said to me, like, was it Mark or someone else said, I think it was Paul saying like Ranieri, and I was like, well, to be fair, Ranieri came in and said, these are all the problems. This is what you need to fix. I can't do it. Pointed it out to everybody. So it says it needs open heart surgery, and it kind of still does. It's just like we're just patching over a lot of things at the minute, and just needs a lot of major surgery. And hopefully in the summer, everything's in the closed season. We're like, so Jim and the team are like, well, this is what we're going to do. Is like just get on with the job, and just like hopefully we're coming into next season. We can see those improvements straight away.
It's an interesting one. I mean, it really is. Ranieri is about to take over at Bayern Munich. Yeah, well,
I don't think their fans are happy about that. I think they want Tuchel to stay.
But you know what? Even if he does, I mean, it's like it does feel very revisionist all of a sudden, because I watched Ranieri's football. It was dire. Like Erik ten Hag is getting a tune out of the same players in a much better way than Ranieri was. So whether that was because he'd just given up and he couldn't be bothered or not, I don't know. But when he was here, he was atrocious, and there is no part of any of his tenure that makes me go, yeah, I'd quite like him to be.
Those players are down tools, Raleigh, and then Ranieri came. It was like almost seeing him as a supply teacher. He's like, he ain't going to be in the manager, because he was going to come in as initially as the KSA and move upstairs. So they all knew, well, we can just do what we want. And so it was like, on one hand, yeah, Ranieri wasn't great, but those players didn't help him either.
It's an interesting one. I'm just running through some of the win percentages of all of the managers. Ranieri was on about 38%. He was rubbish. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, 54%. Ten Hag's actually on the same win ratio at the moment as Jose Mourinho, 58.33. So, and I would argue the football is slightly more enjoyable under Ten Hag than it is under Jose Mourinho. But yeah, some really interesting things being said. It's no surprise that Eric's nearest and dearest told him not to take this job. It's cursed until Ineos' structure comes to fruition, and I think I tend to agree with that as well. Jay just said exactly, Ranieri was the unlucky supply teacher with a classroom full of numpty children, and if he was a supply teacher, he should probably change that job. Andy Bean saying Champions League performance was sackable in itself, to be fair, and again, people have got to remember, in my mind now, that we're not the Man United of a decade and a half ago. We're still judging ourselves based on this idea of what we once were, and are not really seeming to grasp the fact that these things don't happen overnight. You don't just wake up one season and go, well, that's it, unless you're Leicester. You don't wake up and go, we're going to win the league this season, as a complete anomaly, or Blackburn. Who, of course, as we all know, were the Man City of the 90s, with their one treble, more like Liverpool, to be fair, with their one title. But it was just interesting because you get again Swillenberg saying thoughts on ETH comments writing off next season already. And this is what I'm kind of getting at, is that actually, yeah, it's not been ideal, but it's kind of not going to change properly until we get some real big changes, and it can't just always be the manager. It just can't. You know, I'm not sitting here going, this is the best I've ever seen and it's the most ideal. But as Andy said earlier as well, who else is there? Where else can you possibly go with it? I can't remove the conversation on slightly because JJ said earlier, I'm fed up with the inconsistency. And I get it. Me too. So let's take a look at the penalty, because we've got the goal. Obviously, we're winning. And then, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I came up with a little stat pack this morning. I was wandering around looking through some bits. J-Nev, I think, saw them and liked them as well. But as we threw them out on the All for United Twitter page, there were some very interesting stats within there. And I decided to include the penalties. Now, I don't know why I decided to do that, because part of me thought I might keep that until something happens during the match. But I did. And I pointed out that United last had a penalty in 2021 against Burnley that we scored. I don't know if any have been awarded or not scored. But Burnley's last penalty that they scored against Manchester United was almost 50 years to the day. It was 50 years this month. And they got two of them in the same game in a 3-3 draw. And here we are again. And we did give away a penalty. And JJ says clumsy's too kind of word. It was brainless from Onana. And of course, Casemiro too didn't get away with it. Box mentioning that Onana's improved, but he's clumsy and his errors have been a little bit on the regular side. We do seem to be giving away these penalties ridiculously late. Now, Simon has said, going off the full contest, I personally feel it was a just result. As I said earlier, it was a very even game. I don't think the result necessarily is one that we can complain about too much, insofar as they didn't do too badly at all. But what I would say is where I think people get incredibly frustrated, the rules haven't changed since the beginning of the season. Like, the rules don't change. And I think what frustrates me most about officials is they come in at the beginning of the season. These are going to be the rules. They apply the rules. They decide the rules have been applied a little bit too leniently, or too harshly. So either, put it back a little bit or go a little bit harsher on it, depending on where it is. That's no different to what happened at Wolves. No different. Now, my argument isn't, is it a penalty? Because I do think he was lucky to get away with it at Wolves. And I think at the end of the day, he doesn't get the ball. He didn't need to go for it. And he takes the player out. So I'm not sitting here and saying it's not a penalty. This isn't a bitter fan cam going, we never should have had the penalty. My question is the consistency. What has changed between that first game against Wolves, where that was deemed doable? There's been other things that have happened throughout the season where we've seen goalkeepers take out players and nothing be given. Why all of a sudden is that a penalty? And then on the flip side of that, even if that is a penalty, even if that's given, what is the difference between the handball in their penalty box minutes later and Aaron Wan-Bissaka against Coventry? When was there a difference in that one? They've both got their arms out of the back. They're both looking in the other direction. No penalty, and VAR are looking at it. So, I mean, John, the consistency is not there, is it? And I think it's not the result. I'm not fussed about the result. Our season is gone. This isn't like we're whinging about trying to win a title or anything like that. We're not. And I'm pleased with that. And it gives them a chance at the bottom to fight. But it's just so frustrating to sit here and watch these officials just balls it up time and time again. And this is where the frustration is. It's not VAR. People keep saying it is. It's VAR. VAR's the problem. That's why we're having a... It's not VAR. It ain't VAR. It's these officials who are genuinely sucking the blood out of this game, because something they give 2 weeks prior, 2 weeks later isn't a penalty. And they watch the game. They can't just be sat at home knitting for a week and then just go, I've got to come and do my refereeing. And then off they go, referee for 90 minutes, and then come home again and go back to their knitting for a week without paying hide nor hair of attention to the football. It's their job. They're paid for it about $100,000 a year. Now, I don't paid anywhere near $100,000 a year, but if I kept coming in with that sort of inconsistency, I would be sacked tomorrow. It's just not acceptable. So what's going on, John?
I don't know. It's just baffling, like you say. It just seems depend which side of the bed the VAR people get up in the morning. I think it's like you say. There was the handball today by the Burnley defender that wasn't given. That was very, very similar to the one that Wan-Bissaka got penalised for last weekend. Then you've got the Onana one, like you say, that was very similar to the one that wasn't given at the start of last season or this season, whenever it was.
Genuinely, I watched it again today, not the Wolves one, this one.
This season.
And honestly, because they're in yellow and all, I thought it was the same thing.
So yeah, there's just no I don't know whether they just flip a coin when they've watched it a few times if they can't make their mind up or what. I really don't know, but it needs to be more. There needs to be some transparency or something with what's going on in this VAR room or wherever it is, because it's just like you say, ruining games, ruining everybody's enjoyment, and just making a mockery of the league, really.
Yeah, they are. And JJ saying, how different was that handball in terms of proximity to Wan-Bissaka's in the cup final? And herein lies the drama. Like, the rules, they're just so crap. Like, the rules are just atrocious. We are genuinely trying to get people to understand the motives of another human being. And in no other walk of life do we do that. There's a reason why if you go to the court, there's 12 people having to look at you and listen to what you're saying so you can get a decent verdict on it. If it was just one person sat there going, oh, he looks wrong on that one, it doesn't work. You can't do it. And yet here we are, having done this again, Andy, and the same thing's gone on here. We're talking now about, but is it because he's an inch closer, an inch further away? It's hit his bloody hand. And it's in the same way that Wan-Bissaka's hand went in. Wan-Bissaka didn't mean to handball it. He was putting his hand behind his back. And I've got no idea what this other geezer was doing, but he hit his hand in exactly the same position that Wan-Bissaka's did. And he's not right next to the guy. Wan-Bissaka couldn't get his hand out of the way. Neither could their guy. But it hit it. So why is one a penalty and one can be reviewed by VAR? And again, they watch the game, Andy. They can't be sitting there going, oh, yeah, but Coventry, that was a good story. That was going to give them a chance of getting into the FA Cup final so they could get absolutely squashed by Manchester City. We've got to do that Magic of the Cup and all that. Game here against Burnley. Are they sitting there? Is there any possibility, and this is a question, not a suggestion, but is there any possibility they're sitting there going, oh, no, I quite like it if Burnley stayed up? Because genuinely, I can't think of any other reason why that's not a penalty.
I was going to say, it feels like a bit of, payback, penalty we can see, immediately thought of Wolves, our first game of the season. I was like, oh, that's probably likely to be given. And then in 10 hours, just our current misfortune. I mean, yeah, and a bit of bad luck. Yeah, we've just not been lucky with the refereeing decisions over the last few weeks. But it's the amount of penalties we have conceded as well. So the one we did concede, yeah, it's justified. But on the other hand, we should have had 2 or 3 on our side as well. Garnacho being clipped, looked like, and then the handball as well. So it's just, as you said, if that's a 100% handball, why was Wan-Bissaka not being, the consistency? That's what it just changed from one week to the next, or from Saturday to Sunday. Similar situations that happened in the game on Saturday, and you see another similar situation happen on the game on Sunday. It's a totally reversed, and you're like, well, as you said, VAR is not the problem. It's there to aid. It's just like, it's those people that are controlling it, and like, yes, everything's subjective, but just have clear rules and guidelines. It's just like, it just really is inconsistent. I don't know. It's just, for us, it's just, giving away penalties. It's just, yeah, you can see them, yeah, and some have been very debatable, but I say, on the Onana one, yeah, it was justified. It was just like, but maybe I was going to say on and on as well, giving away that. It's just like probably harsh to judge him. Before that, he had a good game, especially in that first half. He had that fingertip save, denying Lara Foster as well. But he just had a moment of madness, and Arna did. And I'm just like, when Casemiro headed that back, I was like, why have you just done that? It's not going. He's not going to get back to Onana. And then suddenly I saw him come running out. But if he hadn't, Wan-Bissaka was going to get it. But just, yeah. I just think Onana is just like, it's almost like a throwback to his early days at United, where you never knew what quite he was going to do next. And whatever he did was often the wrong choice. But just United have been. It's almost like they want to concede chances, and we just conceded a sloppy penalty in the end. But on the one hand, for Onana, he must be at his wit's end. This defence is, and the rest of the team are leaving him under pressure. So, but just without him in today's game, it would have been far worse. We could have been 2-3 down by the first half. So, but a moment of madness from Onana, but. Yeah, we got away with it against Wolves at the start of the season, but this time he clearly took it well. He's a Burnley player out, so I can't. I would have been screaming for that if it had been the other end, but felt like we should have had our, penalties. But it's all subjective.
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka, like you say, he won the ball. Wan-Bissaka, he won the header, so he didn't need to do it at all, really, but. I've no idea what Casemiro was trying to do. I don't know if he was trying to head it back to Onana head it out, or he ended up doing neither really.
He scored it was like half and half. I tried to get it back to Onana, but then it wasn't. And then Wan-Bissaka was like, "Well, I've got to go and get this." So I don't know whether
it's communication, isn't it, boy?
I don't know whether Onana shouted out and gone, "I'm coming to get this," and Wan-Bissaka not gone for it. He might have just got there. I don't know. Or Onana didn't read that situation well, thinking, Wan-Bissaka's just about to get it. I'll just hold my run. And he didn't. He just went shooting straight in, and just unfortunately he didn't save the penalty.
It is a bit mad, and I suppose popping into what we've just been talking about. So Andy's put again here, we should ditch VAR and let the ref the game again. If the ref gives it, then fair enough. VAR is refereeing a moment in still frames as well, not at real pace. Now, I don't actually think...
technology they're using like 25 frames per second, so...
But that's the whole point of the technology. I mean, again, taking it back to the quarter, Andy, I can't think for one second they sit there and go, yeah, you stabbed the bloke, but you did it slowly, so that's, in slow motion.
No, what was the World Cup in Euros? They were using a higher frame rate, so they could every frame move, and they could get a better view of it. It's just the Premier League are not using the better technology that is out there, so you can increase the frame rate if you have the better technology.
Which again is a thing, but I'm not fussed about VAR. I think whichever way you do it, whether you have VAR, whether you don't have VAR, people are going to moan because we are just a moany society of fans. That's how life works. We're going to moan about it. You take away VAR, I guarantee all that happens is it'll be like Brexit all over again. Brexit, the lead team won, so therefore the remaining team are all like, but what can we do to get us back in the EU? That's how it works. And eventually, 20 years down the line, we'll probably end up back in Europe again. And as a result, it'll all go a bit Pete's on again with the other side getting angry, and that's how it works. And it's the same thing with VAR, because you get rid of technology again all of a sudden, people are just going to sit there and go, well, that was a penalty, you saw that, so then you've got to get rid of replays. Well, that's not working, that's just regressing the game, and that doesn't make it any better necessarily than it was before. So I'm just, technology's here, boys. I it's not going to go away, but they've got to use it properly. And the thing that I think Andy gets right there is let the ref the game. It doesn't need 5 people. It needs one person who can do it, and you need one person, just that guy who's refereeing the match, to be the one that goes to look at the screen and make his own mind up. That's why I wasn't against the penalty being given, because the ref goes and looks at it and he's got the option there. He's got the chance to go, no, I still think I was right. But he doesn't, because he's looked at it and gone, well, he does take him out. That's a penalty. All right, fair enough. Maybe he's got an arm and got the ball. So I don't think we can sit and argue that.
I was going to say, on the other case, ideally, we shouldn't be relying on VAR. We should be taking the chances we have got and putting everything to bed. So we shouldn't be relying solely on that to turn around the game for us, which is like, we should create the opportunity and take them. So
it's just about it being used for the right reasons. Like that thing with the offside against Coventry was absolutely mad. The fact that there are people genuinely trying to say technology spoiled the spirit of the game. If that's not, if that's not given and we don't have VAR, then all of a sudden, Coventry would have had a brilliant moment. But if that's the other way, and Man United got that, nobody would be sitting there and saying that. They'd be saying it's a good job VAR exists. That could have cost Coventry.
I know the Premier League are using what the Champions League use for next season, the semi-automatic offsides rules. You'll get a more hopefully consistent, with the VAR and offsides. There's no drawing the lines this time. Next season, it will all be semi-automatic. So
yeah, as JJ just says, so that's going to be interesting. Semi-automated. I mean, machines have a habit of not going the right way, but we shall see, because the goal line technology has been perfect in all the time it's worked. It's a simple bit. It's once, I think there's just one occasion where it hasn't actually beeped at the time it's supposed to beep, and that's the only time in over 20 years, which is really quite something. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. I wanted to go to this question quickly from NT, but why would these, well, it's not really a question, but why would these last games make a difference to the rest of the season? Even if we went on a run of wins, it's the end of the season. What are we realistically expecting? This season is over by the cup. Now, I said at the beginning that I think this is why we need to do well this at the end of this season towards the climax, because for me, momentum is key. When you take it back to 99 or even to City doing their treble, the momentum is what carries you. And this is why you look at Liverpool now, they were chasing their quadruple, Chelsea women chasing their treble. It just takes one little thing. Amad Diallo's goal against Liverpool has derailed their season because it took apart their momentum. There was something like 5 points clear. And now, by the end of the weekend, they could end up being almost 5 points behind in a very short space of time. It's derailed their season. And we could be in this sort of situation because City, they just have this horrible way of just picking up wins, even though they're not necessarily doing as well as they can do. So that breeds that momentum. It breeds that confidence. If we are playing these sorts of matches, it's so tricky going into that game, isn't it, John? Surely we're going to go into that game if we have this patchy form all the way up to Wembley. That's more likely to be a recipe for us not doing well in the FA Cup final than if we can get some wins and a little bit of confidence into the team.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It would be nice if we could go into that cup final with being on a good run of wins. But it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. We're just going to have to. I think that cup final, we're just going to hope we get a massive slice of luck somewhere, or somebody has an absolute stormer of a game, or maybe Martial will come back and score a 2-yard tap in the last minute of the game to win it, or something like that.
That'd be nice. Andrew, do you take anything from what NT said there, or my thoughts on the momentum? I'm a big fan of it. I think momentum is huge in football, and confidence is obviously key in anything you do in life. So do you think that's important? Do you think we should be looking to get these wins and give everything in these matches so that we can build that momentum? Or do you just sort of think, just scrape it through, play the kids, as I think Simon said earlier on, don't worry about it too much, and then when you get to that final, hope that they've all trained and worked hard enough to just put one final shift in and do a miracle, basically?
It's a tricky one. I know. I think I've sort of said, do we put the kids in for or some of the kids in for the rest of the season? But then you want some momentum going into that cup final. And I'm just saying, looking at who we've got next, the last remaining fixtures. I mean, Palace away on the bank holiday Monday, that is not going to be easy. Palace, it's always a tricky ground to go to at Selhurst Park, and it's like you have to fight for everything there. So I'm just like, the way Palace have been playing there recently, like, got to be wary of them. And then obviously Arsenal as well. They're, depending on what happens tomorrow if they beat Spurs, I'm just, they're in the running for the title. They'll be like, we could potentially end up derailing their title chances as well. So, and then Newcastle and then Brighton's the last game of the season. So they're all tricky fixtures. And you're just thinking the way United are playing at the moment, can we see how many wins can we see out of those games? I'm just like, we just need some momentum and a bit of luck at the minute, because I feel like that semi-final against Coventry, if we play that same way against City in the final, then it's going to be a bit of an annihilation. And I'm just like, City are just going to have we're just going to run right through you, and there's nothing much we can do about it. But we've just got to find something from somewhere. And I'm just like, well, I don't know when's throwing a few of the kids on or not, or just like getting some of those injured players as well. I think you were saying the other day, well, I think Luke Shaw, even Martial might be back before the end of the season as well. I'm just like, as John said, if he came on the cup final and scored that 2 yards, I think we'd all be just like, it's the winning goal. And like, it's like a minute from time. We'd all be talking about it for years. He just rode off into the sunset, Martial, and just left us with that. I was like, wow, if this is lasting memory, but can we honestly say he's going to do that? I don't know. But I just don't know with United at the minute. I'm just like, as I said about the match today, one way I'm annoyed, and the other I'm just like, let's get the season over with and just get to that cup final, because it's just like, it'd just be nice to get some revenge on City, and about this time next month.
Really would be. We could do a pep telling everyone he's leaving as well. Dan's here. He's woken up on my deathbed bed. Jen, really is. He's having a terrible
deathbed bed.
Bed, yeah. It's a special one that he's had made specifically for when he's dying. I know, a deathbed bed. It's not his usual bed. This is the one he dies in, because obviously you've got to sell your proper bedding. That's a good one to sell. Make money on that.
If he needs to go back to sleep, just watch that game.
Oh, possibly. Slept the entire day on and off. Sounds like I was better being asleep. Maybe. And as Andy says, man flu as well, and truly got a hold of Fieldy. Absolutely made just for man flu. Apparently, it's a man flu bed. One flew over the deathbed. Maybe. I finished off my win percentages with managers, boys and girls. I thought I'd carry on doing that whilst Andy was trying to make you all feel positive about the FA Cup final. Louis van Gaal, 52%. David Moyes, 53%. Ron Atkinson was 50%. Sexton and Doherty were 40 and 46%. Even the late, great Ernest Magnell, who used to manage Burnley as well, from way back in the early 1900s, was only 54%. Ten Hag and Jose Mourinho are our two top with 58.33. And obviously the only person that we've got really that tops him is Sir Alex Ferguson. And he's only on 59.67. It's like 1% more effectively. So it's interesting. We are getting rid of some people who are still sort of keeping track. Obviously for Sir Alex, that's a ridiculous amount to have had over a hugely long period of time. But yeah, just very interesting to see how we're getting with it. Bruno created a fair bit today. All of it came to nothing. I thought he was all right. Not a bad game at all for him, but just not brilliant in terms of finishing. Anything you guys want to bring in about Bruno's performance today?
I'll say on Bruno, today he was at the heart of the majority of our attacking play. I mean, creating several opportunities for the players as well. And within the first 2 minutes, he picked out Garnacho at the far post, and Garnacho just couldn't take his chance. you know, his energy, you know, he brings the, you know, helps the United team get forward. So, but you think the number of chances he's creating, just like they're not, you know, just not being put away. I mean, in the Premier League this season, he's created 108 chances, and that's more than any other player in the league, and double what second United player has, which is Garnacho. So, but
Do you love Bruno?
where would we be at? Where would we be at without Bruno? If he, you know, he hadn't signed for us, you know, we'd probably been in a worse place.
Well, definitely trying to be a politician, ain't you, Andrew?
Like, yeah, John Clement was asking me that, wasn't he? But I said I wouldn't. A certain party I wouldn't be under. So I'll form my own party.
Yeah, as we don't talk about Bruno party. Do you love Bruno? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, there we go.
Yes.
Cool. Blimey. Start calling him flipping Rishi at this point. John, anything you want to add on about Bruno there?
I don't. He didn't have as quite a good a game. Perhaps I didn't think as he would have liked. I don't think. I think some of his passes weren't as good as what they normally are. He wasn't, you know, quite finding people like he normally does. But you know, anything that we did sort of, but we were creating, it sort of all tends to, you know, it does go through him, and he's certainly, you know, he is extremely important player for us, as he has been for the last 4 years, is it now? So yeah, it's, you know, I understand why people get frustrated with him, and you know, sometimes his antics with the officials and things like that can, you know, be a little bit, you know, get on your nerves a little bit, perhaps, where he carries on sometimes when things aren't going our way or his way. But yeah, definitely have him there every game without a doubt.
Do you love Bruno?
Yes.
Okay. That's how you do it, right there. Hoyland, does he need to contribute more? What do you reckon? There was a bit of a chat about Hoyland earlier on. Thought his hold-up play and all-round contribution was poor today, said Andy. A tricky one. He also said that he's been getting away with it a bit. Again, anything you want to throw out there on Rasmus?
Yeah, I think he needs to be a bit better. You know, certainly when the ball's played up to him, you know, he's not very. Doesn't seem to win many aerial balls, many headers. I don't think, and so he doesn't seem to be able to hold the ball up very particularly well when we're trying to use him as sort of like that sort of outlet up top. But I do think he doesn't probably get you know, the service that he probably needs. Certainly, like balls from out wide, you know, we see the wingers more often than not. You know, they don't manage to get a decent crossing or ball across the box. So it's that's certainly frustrating, and it must frustrate him as well, because I'm sure he would be in the goals more if we could play some better balls into the box.
Andy, anything you want to throw in about Hoyland? Or
just he needs more service. I'm just saying more balls into the box. You can see him there waiting, and it's like he's trying to when do I make a run, and then like with Anthony, he always gets to the bar and he cuts it. And I'm just like, I think I said it to friend Graham who was sitting next to him. I said, does Anthony cross the ball in? I'm just like,
playing devil's advocate, there are some people saying that he is getting some service, and when he's getting it, he's just not doing enough with it.
It needs more. I'm just thinking it's just like times this season you just see him cutting a frustrated figure, and I'm just like, well, give him more service, he'll start getting on and then more of these chances, and when he starts scoring more goals, you know, his confidence will grow even more, and then, you know, when he does get these up, I know he's saying he's a bit like Andy Cole, you know, he's taking several chances to score, but I'm just thinking that comes with time and experience. It's like the more service you give him, he's going to start putting these chances away with one or two of them. So it's just more service. That's what he needs.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you haven't already and you're watching, just push the little like button if you could, please. We're trying to get double figures for each show. I think we're on 8 at the minute. So 2 kind-hearted people to just click on that button. That'd be rather wonderful. Thank you so much. Whilst with their NT saying that he thinks Bruno was our best player so far in the game today. I say so far as if there's a chance anybody else could get it. They can't. Not that saying much for today's game. Mason Mount getting a bit of grief here from Andy. Anything we want to say about Mason Mount? Because I don't think he's had enough time to show whether or not he's as useful as a chocolate ashtray. And what I would say about a chocolate ashtray is that they're very tasty and you can eat them, and that would be a good source of energy. So I would say there is some use in a chocolate ashtray. What do we reckon? Anything we want to say about Mason Mount? Because he didn't really get to come on and think and put anything really into the game.
No, I mean, I presume the plan wasn't to bring him on today, seeing as he only came on when McTominay went off injured. He'd only been on for 10 minutes or so himself, so I presume he's still not back to full fitness. But he's just had he's never got going at all this season, has he? He's just been injured for most of this half of the season. Certainly the first half of the season when he was playing, he didn't really seem to impress a great deal. So it's been pretty forgetful, I think, as far as Mount's concerned.
Well done, one. You got us to 10. Good job. If you want to do more, feel free. NT actually forgot he came on today, and it took me a moment to remember that McTominay got injured, and that was why he came on in the first place. But Andrew, anything you want to throw out there about Mount?
So we haven't seen the best of him this season. He's not really got going. Hopefully it'll be next season, he kicks on. But I mean, during today's game, I think, if I remember rightly, as was heading towards full time, he played one great pass to launch a counter attack, but then the move just broke down. So just just didn't have much time to make any more, be more of an influence. He did all right. That's about it.
Where do you see him fitting in? That's what Andy's asking. Where do you see, if you were going to put him in there, I don't know if there's a formation change that's needed in your eyes to get him in there, but where do you think we would get the best out of Mason Mount? And I'm not saying that you're going to drop someone to put them in there, but which position in the system we're playing, which seems to be the one that Ten Hag wants to go with, where do you put him? Which little circular magnetic footballer is he going to be? Where does he fit?
Number 10 role, which is I'd move Bruno back and then put Mason in the number 10 role.
So he's trying to get out there against Bruno, and it's not easy. Not easy at all. And the last question that Andy Bean asked, we probably should have asked him to come on the show, to be honest with you, because he had quite a bit to say tonight, which is good. Must get that remedied. But he wants to know thoughts on the Garnacho decision making. How are we feeling about the Garnacho decision making? I, listening to it on the radio, genuinely believed that if anything was going to come from the game, it felt like it was going to be a Garnacho goal, because he seemed to be involved in quite a bit going forward. But again, it's the decision making. So NT thinks you hate Bruno. We know that's not true. We got a proper answer from him. He said he loves Bruno. So let's not spread vicious rumours. He loves Bruno. We heard it here first. But do you love Garnacho, Andrew, or what would you do with him?
I'd say his decision, some points today. But I mean, I remember in the second half when he took on a run and took on the player and he cut across the box and put the pass across, and just unfortunately Anthony did, and if we just put some side foot on it, it would probably have gone into the goal, but he hit it straight at the goalkeeper. With Garnacho at the moment, he's still a young player, so his decision making is going to be lacking at points, but that will get better with time. And just like this one, I say about Garnacho before, he's a player. Once he gets on the ball, he gets you off your feet, and you're like, he's willing to take on the opposition and try something. So, enforce, try and get the ball into the box, and try and create an opportunity. So, think in time, more matches you get, more experience, we'll know when to make the better decisions.
For sure. Leader of the Bruno Fernandes party. That could be what you called.
The name of
I don't like the initials though. A BFP, that could go very wrong very quickly over here in Britain. Because that's just a few letters away from a party that nobody wants to be a part of. Not a good idea. The BFP could also be mixed up with the BFG, which is a big friendly giant, of course, by Roald Dahl. So we wouldn't want that either, because he might be big and friendly, but he's not a giant. That's John Neville. And speaking of John Neville, what do you make of Garnacho's decision making?
Yeah, he didn't. Again, he didn't have his great game. He was getting in down the wings at times, but sometimes he was the furthest forward on the counter, and he hadn't got any support. Anybody to help him up there, and say there was a shot in the second half that he really should have hit the target with. It just sort of went past the far post. But yeah, he was struggling a lot of the time to get the ball across from the wide position.
Do you think it was a penalty for him? Because there was a big moment in the game that I could hear Mickey Thomas saying that he thought it was potentially a penalty, because he was asking the question, why would he go down? And the other commentator actually did say that he thought he'd dived, and he watched it from a different angle and saw no, there was contact. And then,
yeah, there was definitely potential for a penalty there. I saw when he was running through, he was going through at speed. The sort of defenders the wrong side of him. There's probably some contact there. So I personally thought that could well have been a penalty, but it's another one of those, isn't it? Where if it's against us, it probably gets given, but not for us. But yeah, it was a bit disappointing, Garnacho, with his the Burnley defender certainly was played very well against him, matched him for pace.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we're talking about decision making, and we spoke about Anthony staying on his feet to score the goal. Do you think there was any way Garnacho could have stayed on his feet and been able to get to the ball in enough time to put it in the net?
Possibly. I mean, I think they were sometimes perhaps were a bit guilty of not getting a shot in. I suppose the only thing he was probably thinking for that one, he was sort of on his left foot rather than his right, so he probably thought it was a better chance of trying to get a penalty than going for goal in that particular instance. But yeah, I think certainly probably a bit guilty of not getting a shot off.
For sure. Big Johnny K from Florida's back. Garnacho was wasteful at times. He was lively as always. There was one shot that went wide. Nancy and Hoyland were there and better positioned. I was annoyed at him for that. It was very naughty. There we go. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
Yeah, there was one. I just remembered about one particular moment when he had. I don't know if it was the same shot or not, but Hoyland was certainly giving him the daggers, for not trying to find him at the back post. I did see him having a bit of a remonstrating with him. So yeah, there was just reminded me of that did.
Indeed. And as JJ says there, sometimes someone needs to get through to him and remind him that an assist is just as worthy as a goal, which it absolutely is, because it ultimately results in a goal. And I agree with this as well, JJ. It's that whole thing of contact, but getting the ball reminds me of the whole follow-through argument. It never makes sense. I mean, honestly, if people put me in charge of football, it would be very simple. If the ball hits your hand in the penalty box, handball. End of story. That's it. It's done. Handball. Like, forget the intent. It's hit your hand. Job done. Penalty. And the same thing with fouls. If you've got the ball, ain't a foul. Doesn't matter if you break their leg. because you've got the ball, and that's the purpose of the game. Accidents are going to happen. It's not like the David Boost injury or Alfie Haaland. You know, those were atrocious ones that weren't about getting the ball. If you've gone over the ball and you've not touched it, free kick, penalty, card. It doesn't require, if you've got the ball, follow through is just a ridiculous thing. You're all just going for it. So there we go. So if you want to vote for the Bruno Fernandes party, go for Andrew Ward. If you want to bring sense and sensibility back over to here, then join my Jane Austen party, which is what we would call that. So there we go. To be honest, I don't think the initials of my one will work very well either. So between us, we're going to have to go away and think about this, Andy Ward, because it's not going to happen. Just vote John Nev. He'll sort it out with his nice, calm voice. Gang, I feel we have reached the conclusion. There's not a huge amount more we could mention. I think it's been a pretty tricky one. Do either of you want to put a shout out for a potential man of the match? Or is that pushing it a bit too much?
I've not really thought about that, really, no. I thought Maguire had a good game at the back again. I thought he was pretty faultless, and he was trying to get things going from the back again. So I'll give it Maguire.
Yeah,
very good.
Sam Maguire, he had a good game as well. Steady presence at the back. So, but I'm going to say lead my part and say Bruno Fernandes, who's now consistent in his quality as well. Okay, yes, he can frustrate at times, but he's the one leading this team through, dragging it from mediocre to try and something more respectable.
Absolutely. JJ thinks he agrees with Maguire. NT thinks the ball boy did a respectable job, which is a bit hard. And Nana would have been the contender before the penalties had given it to Anthony, which is fair enough. John Cole saying nobody was great today. And when it comes to the handball, he's mentioning, yes, the Burnley defender's arm is by his side, but if a player's arm is by his side and the ball's going in, is that a penalty? And that's what I mean. They muck about with it too much. They made it far too tricky. And it's just not necessary. And as Box says finally there, we hope McTominay is not badly injured. Always a possibility he pops up with a key goal at Wembley. It didn't sound good, didn't look great. So yeah, big hope that the young man is okay, because I think after the season he's had, that would be very unjust if he was to miss the FA Cup. Right, what's happening? Well, let's get to it, shall we? What's the day today? It's Saturday. So tomorrow, obviously, the girls are going off to face Leicester in another match that really doesn't mean a huge amount to us in the grand scheme of the world, but we'll still be here on All for United WFC on Monday night to have a little chat about everything that's happened in the United-Leicester game. So we will be talking about that, and that is part one. On the All for Wofo brand of the section of the empire that Connor's got, basically, that they'll be doing something pointless. So get yourself over there and see if you can enjoy that as well. We're going to have to look for a midweek show, gents, because surprisingly, we don't have a game now until Bank Holiday Monday, as John Nev mentioned earlier. So the preview probably won't be till Saturday for that, the 4th of May, which means, when the 4th be with you, that'll be, I can see that joke coming in. I'll definitely slip that one in when we get to the preview. That's for sure. That's the definite way we finish that show. Just brainstorm as we work. Sorry, guys. But absolutely, we're going to get a little midweek show. I can see a little topic show coming in. So if you think there's something you haven't spoken about and mentioned, get it in the chat, get it somewhere, get it onto Twitter, get across to us. Let us know what's going on. It's never, no such thing. No such thing, Andy. Doesn't happen. Honestly, if you've ever seen the picture of like the people pushing the wheel, getting whipped by people, that's me. Like there's no other person on the wheel, it's just me pushing the wheel around. I'm like a really bad hamster. That's my job. And he's got the gall to say I'm Zlatan Ibrahimovic of AFU. It's absolutely unbelievable. But we'll be here for a fans forum of some sort, I'm sure. We'll get a good little chat in. There'll be something to keep you ticking along before we get to Saturday. Now, the more exciting part of this is going to be there's no Dan. So is that going to be a post show? I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, probably. This absolutely could go wrong. If Barry has a week off, I fear something has gone badly wrong. Yes, I could be getting sacked. You never know. It could happen. I'm sure I've got a weekly review coming up at some point. But there we go. So we'll see. Will the stream end? Will we be back? And I'll have to come in on my phone and do it. Nobody knows. It's going to be probably the most exciting 30 seconds of your life coming up. So let's push the button and see what happens, shall we? It's been an absolute delight. Here we go. Post-credit scene incoming. Like, we're just doing it. It's marvelous. It's what we wanted. Let's give it a try. Fingers crossed, everyone. We don't see you, but I'm 99% sure that I will. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.